Tuesday to all of you. Welcome to the John Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH. Hey, all three of us are back. What do you know about that? Mr. Millard, we missed you, brother. I hope you had a good vacation.
I did, and thank you, and I missed you guys as well. I wanted to call in, but
You're on vacation.
I was on vacation. I don't know.
Right. Well, wait a minute, Edge. Wait a minute. I remember a few times over the years you were sitting
He
out,
did call in.
beautiful Lake Tahoe on the shoreline, relaxing, and you called in and did the show from the shorelines of Lake Tahoe.
That's because I'm dedicated, John.
I know that. That's my point. I'm giving you kudos, man.
Being on this show is a vacation.
I really look at it too. It's like there's 2 hours out of my day that I consider a vacation. From 4 to 5 a.m. when I get to work out, and then from 3 to 4 every day when I get to spend time with you guys or by myself. And, there's no phones, there's no emails, there's no nothing. And you just sit here and get to focus. And, my favorite days, of course, are with you two and, just a bunch of guys sitting around rapping about all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm with you. You got it. All right. That, of course, Corey Edge of Edge related to Dwight Millard of On Q Home Loans. So let me tell you what we have lined up. And we were joking before the show, and Dwight's like, "Hey, this looks like this show's all about Corey today." And I said, "You know what, buddy? You're right. I wanted to ease you back in after being on vacation a little bit. For many of you, your home, of course, as we have said a million times on this program, your home is your largest asset. But what actually happens if that home ends up in probate?" Now, you may be saying, "Well, wait a minute here. It's not Wednesday where you always cover estate planning topics." No, it's Tuesday. But we're going to sneak this in a little bit. This is kind of a warm-up till tomorrow, and here's why I'm saying that. Because Corey has a significant amount of experience in the probate courts from the real estate side. So questions like, who has the authority to sell your home if it goes to probate? How long does it take? Can your family move in? Who can use it? So on and so forth. So what we're going to really answer for you today is what really happens, real life, not textbook, what really happens when a home, your home potentially, if you don't do any estate planning, goes through probate. How proper estate planning can help those families, those of you, avoid those unnecessary delays and expenses. And Corey, probably, what I'm looking forward to more than anything, and I always love your stories and Dwight's stories, is really the war stories. Again, things that you have seen, that you have gone through. I mean, it's mind blowing. It really is.
Yeah, and it is. And we'll get into I think everybody hears the word probate and it scares them and they think it's expensive and has no reason, but the court is there to protect the assets and protect the estate and make sure. And, all three of us have talked about this over the years, especially off the air, that everybody can get along smoothly. But as soon as somebody passes away and there's money involved, it becomes a fight between the best of friends. And
yes, it is. Best of family, best of friends. Yeah.
Specifically family and siblings. And the court is there to make sure that whoever is doing things is doing them correctly. So I don't ever look at it as a burden. It's doing its job. And
yeah, they're like the referee in a sense, right?
Yep.
Dwight, do you have much experience with clients over the years?
I do, John. I get it. Usually, what they're usually trying to do is find out how, can they qualify for, once it goes through probate, can they, but, I've got one going right now with old friend of mine passed away and his son had to move in. It was disaster and had to borrow his own money, his own credit cards, kept the payment going. And he's going through probate and he's waiting to be able to, but it's interesting because it's not easy. And so Corey will be helpful in clarifying a lot of that. Cause I encourage him to call Corey, but I think we got it settled before he had to.
I want you brought up a good point, Dwight, and I want you to obviously give your expertise from the lender's perspective. I asked you this, I don't know, a few months ago, and I think it's a good time, obviously, with this topic to bring it up again. And that is, what happens? Who is responsible? Are you going to foreclose on the house if it's in probate? Because eventually, right, Corey, would you say, I don't know, percentage wise, out of all the cases you've handled, what percent ends up where the judge says this thing needs to be sold and proceeds distributed to the family versus what percentage a family member eventually, wants to get it or move in and take it over?
It's very rare, I think, that the judge would say this is what has to happen. I mean, there has to be a massive fight between the heirs or the siblings for a judge to. You got to remember, judges don't like to make those decisions unless you force them to. They're there to make sure that whatever decisions everybody is making are legal and in the best interests of the estate. So they won't come in and make decisions against any of the parties unless they're forced to do it.
Right.
I've never been involved in one where, not in a probate, where the judge specifically says this house must be sold. Now, divorces are different. That happens all
Yes.
the time in the divorce cases. But typically the probates are, when I get involved, it's because the heirs or the people in charge want to sell the property. Every once in a while, they'll get involved because they're still deciding, do they want to sell it? So we need a value, or is the family going to keep it? And I'm happy to give my 2 cents on the value of it and let them decide. But I think and again, I'm not an attorney. I don't want to pretend like know all this stuff. I get involved on the real property side, but I've never been involved in one where a judge, against other people's wishes, said this property must be sold.
Right.
I have been involved. I closed 3 probates last month, and 2 of them were on the last step of foreclosure, could have been taken at any point. And I think the third one was in a notice of default. So it's not uncommon, for those things to happen.
Yes. Fascinating. All right. You got a lot to, you folks are in for a great treat today with Corey and Dwight talking about that side. I'm not going to profess, I don't have any experience at that level, I've never had any clients or anything go through that side of it with real estate. So I'm going to be learning like everybody else. So great stuff, guys. All right, let's get down to the stock market side of things. Well, I joked about this yesterday when the news broke from the president, when he announced his 20% go fee, I'll call it, right? Remember yesterday he announced, and this is the reason we saw oil prices skyrocket yesterday. He announced that all ships, not just Iranian, but all ships coming and going through the Strait of Hormuz were going to be assessed a 20%. That money was coming to the U.S. to reimburse us for our cost of military patrol and so on and so forth. I went on the show to continue to discuss that, and I said, well, here's the math. If a super tanker, which are the very largest oil tankers that carry approximately 2 million barrels of oil. If a super tanker was going through, they would be writing a check to the U.S. government to the tune of $30 million. Just for the right to go through. And I don't know if that's round trip or if that's just one way, but $30 million. Iran came out and said, it's way too much money. We only charge them $2 million. And I made the comment yesterday on the show, and I said, I don't know how this can go. I don't know how we have the legal authority to do this. I don't know. This is going to create chaos around the world because eventually everyone's going to end up paying that higher price, right? The shipping companies are not going to absorb that. The oil companies are not going to absorb it. Consumers around the world are going to absorb it. Well, sure enough, today, that didn't even last. I think it was maybe 24 hours. that it lasted. President came out today and said, you know what? We're not going to do this after all. We're not going to do that because I made a deal with countries around the world, and it's going to be a big deal. We're going to make a lot of money on this deal. Didn't have any particulars. Don't know what the deals are. Don't know which countries are involved. But he said deals were struck. So we saw oil prices come down on that news, on that headline. We still have this, it was effective as of 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the blockade against Iranian ships coming and going through the strait. And so we decided this around one, it was like 12:30 our time. Here comes the news headlines. We initiated some very substantial bombing once again on Iran, just to kind of, put them in the right spot, I guess. So it's still going on. But what was amazing, guys, is all that happened today. And again, yes, the bombing started a little after the market closed, or a little bit before the market closed. Oil prices or oil markets were already closed for a couple hours. But we only finished the day up 98 cents on oil, 79.40. So that was one major headline today. Corey and Dwight, this is something, of course, you both are very involved in, and that is CPI. So here was the other catalyst to the strength of the market today. 5:30 this morning, we had the CPI number come out. And just as we've said, remember, you can pretty much gauge what's going to happen with inflation based upon what's happened with oil prices. And we know June, we saw oil prices come down substantially. This, of course, was June CPI data. CPI down 0.4% month over month, but still up 3.5% year over year. Any comments from you guys on that side of it?
John, you saw the bond market just rally this morning off of that news. So, I mean, I guess it was, to your point, the overall still too high, but at least that was they weren't expecting that, I would assume, right?
No,
okay.
not at all.
Were they expecting flat or even up? Or, I mean, down 0.4 is pretty good.
Yeah, I think they were looking for up 3 or 4/10, if I remember correctly. Instead, it was down 4/10. Yeah. And then you get to core, you strip out food and energy, and it was up 2 points. It was unchanged month over month and up 2.6% year over year. So yeah, good numbers. So that was good. Then we had comments come out of Kevin Warsh, of course, our new Federal Reserve Chairman. Corey, I thought about you. I would love to get your opinion when we come back from the break. He basically said, inflation's gone. It's going to be gone in the next 5 years under his control. Inflation is going to be gone, so he's got ways to do that. So we will see with the chairman. Let's give you some details about what he said and what his plan is. And then again, today he did give his Humphrey Hawkins testimony. This is, or at least it used to be called that every 6 months. The chairman of the Fed gets in front of the House one day and the Senate the next day, and basically gives an overall report card about the economy. So he did that today. No major headlines coming out of there. Welcome back to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Corey Edge of Edge Realty, Dwight Millard of OnQ Home Loans. All right, we're going to get to our topic here momentarily. What happens to your home if it goes to probate? We're going to get real life experience from Corey Edge. All right, guys, we were talking about, again, this inflationary report, CPI down 0.4%. Shocked everybody, as Dwight indicated. They were looking for an increase. Year over year, flat. Core was flat month over month. Year over year, up 2.6%. The headline was up 3.5%. So still substantially well above the 2%. But again, Kevin Warsh, I was trying to find the story, but it's been deleted. Basically indicated this morning that essentially what he's saying is under his watch, the inflation is going to be pretty much gone, or at least down to the 2% Fed mandate within 5 years. Corey, did you pick up on that?
I watched a little bit of his testimony, and I obviously heard his opening remarks that they had. You can make numbers do whatever you want them to do depending on how you read them, right? So if you're going to get 10 different committees and 100 different people to kind of change the way the numbers are, I'm not saying anything wrong with Kevin Warsh. Maybe it's the right thing, but you may still have the same amount of real inflation, but if it's not counted the same way, maybe the magic number comes in at zero.
Get your point. Okay.
Who knows how they do that? But he seems from watch. Yeah, change the formula. I mean, from watching him, he seems pretty, I don't know. I mean, dead on, legitimate, and we'll see what he does. I mean, he's pretty stern.
Yep, absolutely is. All right, so that helped the markets out. And then, Dwight, after all of the action I just said, I figured you'd like this one. Got you an update from the CME's Fed Watch tool. Yesterday, there was a 42% chance that the central bank was going to raise rates at the July meeting. That is now only 17%. So how do you like that one?
Good. I love that. Great news. Great news.
There you go.
Yeah, and John, real quick, you got PPI coming out tomorrow. You think that's going to move? You think that's going to move anything?
It'll be down. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I think
good.
It'll be down. Yep, no doubt about it.
So hold off on my locks for one day.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
As far as the Dow, it was a quiet day. We finished up just 10 when it was all said and done. NASDAQ rose 234.90%, and the S&P up 28 points. Oil, as I said earlier, up 98 cents, $79.40 a barrel. Gold had a good day, $63.40 increase to $4,069.70. And Dwight, pretty quiet in the bond market, 2 basis point decline, 4.57 was our yield. How do we do on the 30-year mortgage?
Yeah, don't go on vacation. Remember that time I went on vacation? Rates went up a full point. Well, I mean, John, we got, it was a good day. It was a great day after that CPI number came out. But, you got a 5 basis point drop. But, the rate on a 30-year fixed according to Mortgage News Daily, just the average is 6.7. I mean, so that means it was 6.75 yesterday, right? Yeah. And so it crept up. We've had some.
I am really surprised.
Yeah. Well, and it's that Iran thing, every time it just feels like that's going to be a problem. So it's, now your FHA and VAs they're above now the 6. I mean, those have been your champions inside of 6. They're 6.25 each. So maybe we get a little PPI relief tomorrow, maybe get another 5 basis points. That helps. But yeah, it's tough out there, John. It is really, really tough. And what's amazing, John, I just want to, it's, I've never seen the amount of shoppers that I see now.
No kidding.
Never. I give everybody
on the loan side.
On the loan side, on the quotes, I give everybody all 4 aces. There's nothing I hold back, right?
Yes.
It's all 4 aces. I'm not going to play the game. And then they take it and they run with it and they go back and forth. I've never seen it like this, John.
Why do you think
40
that
years
is? Because rates are higher. They're trying to squeak out every basis point they can.
Maybe, or they've been educated that, why stop there? Go shop 10 different lend. I mean, it's pretty, I've in a lot of years I haven't done, but I've lost a couple even at the very end. So it's been, it's just still looking for the last, and I don't have anything else, they think these margins on these mortgages are, we're making tons of money, and that's the furthest from the truth. I think there's a lot of lenders, John, in trouble. I haven't seen it, but
you've been saying that for a couple months.
I think there's more than you think because these rates are not going down. And, remember we were going to ramp up staffing up. Remember that?
Yes.
Before the Iran conflict, everybody was talking about rehiring. Well, that's gone away. So yeah.
Well, we'll get the mortgage applications tomorrow for the previous week or so, and be interesting to see what the volume is looking like at that point. All right, we got a couple minutes before our break. Let's get the show going here. What happens to your home if it goes to probate? Again, your home for many of us represents more than just four walls and a roof, right? It's a place we raise the kids, we bake cookies, we have birthdays that are celebrated. I mean, you name it. Doesn't matter. The home has a lot of sentimental reasons, but it's also the largest financial asset many of you own. So today, I want to ask a question that very few homeowners have ever considered. So listen closely. What happens to your home if it goes to probate? Now, let me stop right there. As you're thinking about the answer to that, you may be saying, I don't know what probate is. We're going to explain that. How do I get to probate? Really simple. Your house is not, if you're married and your joint tenants' rights or survivorship on your titling, you're fine as long as one of you are still alive. So when the second one goes, then you're in trouble. Or again, if your house is just in your name, maybe you've been a single person or you're a widow or you're divorced, whatever, again, your house not listed in the name of the trust, it's going to probate. So as long as that house is listed under the name of your living trust, you're avoiding probate from that standpoint. So that's really it. But you have to ask yourself again, what happens to your home if it goes to probate? Who's going to take care of it? Who pays the mortgage? Can someone come in and sell it? How long does the probate process take? All of these questions start going through your mind literally at the worst possible time, right? You're mourning the loss of a loved one, and now you're trying to get all these questions answered, and you're frustrated, right? We've all seen that with clients. They get frustrated. They don't have access to bank accounts because those are frozen also. And again, let your imagination wander. So you have to ask yourself, what could have been done for probate to be avoided? So there was none of this hassle. So when we come back, we're going to start off with Corey and Dwight and talk about what exactly is probate, right? Then we're going to get into what happens the day after someone passes away. We'll move into, can the home be sold immediately? And then really the icing on the cake that I can't wait for is Corey's probate experience. So a lot of great things we're going to be touching with you. Welcome back to the John Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Corey Edge of Edge Realty to Dwight Mallard of OnQ Home Loans. Once again, we finished up 10 on the Dow, and NASDAQ gained 234, the S&P higher by 28. Okay, let's get down to our topic that we just really started talking about. What happens to your home if it goes to probate? All right, so we're going to now move on to really the fundamental question for those of you that don't know. What is probate? So Corey, take it away.
Probate, what's the easiest way to answer it? Probate is a court-administered process to settle an estate, liquidate an estate, whatever you want to call it, under the court's supervision to make sure that, A, the assets are being sold properly, they're being sold at market value, whatever that may be, and that the money is being distributed or the funds is being distributed to where it's supposed to go. And you don't have to distribute money. You can distribute the property or any type of asset, but the difference is it's under the court's supervision. So every time you want to do something, you got to go get court approval, which sounds horrible, but it's not that bad. Everybody makes it sound ridiculous, but it's not that bad.
Is there cost involved, Corey?
Of course. I mean, well, listen, there's going to be court costs involved no matter what. You can do a probate on your own. Let's say that, my Uncle Buck passes away and names me the administrator in his will. I can go into the probate court and try to do that on my own. But I could also do my own root canals and cut my own hair if I wanted to, which right. I know a lot of times it looks like I do cut my own hair, but it's not. You probably shouldn't go into the probate court without an attorney. And these things are, John, it's not that expensive. I mean, I guess it's all relative, but for, let's call it a few $1,000s, as long as you don't have some crazy estate, the attorney's going to go and do all their stuff, file their paperwork, get you through the process and be done the correct way.
The average fee in Nevada is 3 to 5% of the asset value of the estate.
I deal with a lot of attorneys that handle probates, and maybe they have some other deals I'm not aware of, but I've never heard of anybody quote it in percentage terms. Yeah, I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But I've never had an attorney.
That's just what that's what the stats show.
Yeah.
And you got to think too, I would think that the majority of cases that do go to probate are probably not large estates. You would think people that have some wealth obviously would have estate plans in place with designed to avoid probate. So that may be another issue there.
The majority, you'd be surprised, but yeah, the every once in a while I see a big one slip through the cracks. Like, wow, how did that happen? But yes, you're correct. The majority of those type of estates are going to be held in trust and avoid the process.
Corey, is it pretty boring if there's no real estate involved? Is a probate is that what everybody's going after or trying to protect is a real estate?
Yeah.
end of it, or
the only ones I'm involved in have real estate. That's the only reason I'm there. But
right.
in Nevada, if the value of the estate is under 25,000, you don't even need to go to court. 25, I think, to 100,000 without real estate, you need to go to court once or twice, and that's it.
Yeah, pretty expedited process.
Anything over that, or maybe it's a $300,000, you have to go to probate for the supervision. But here's the trick: anything that has real property, regardless of value, has to go through the full process. Doesn't matter. The value of the real property doesn't matter. So I just did one last month.
If you had a big loan on it and it's only worth, it doesn't matter.
If you have real property in there that you're going to distribute, you have to go through the probate process, period. Even if it's a little $10,000 piece of land.
So to summarize, what is probate? Court supervised administration. The judge is going to validate the will. Remember, anybody can write a will. They're going to identify the heirs, pay the creditors, distribute the assets, so on and so forth. Again, it's not bad, as Corey said, but it can be time consuming. It can be expensive. It can be very frustrating I've seen it with, family members that don't understand the probate process, and they think their last parent died, everything was going to come right over to them. They don't understand things get tied up in the court system, the probate court system. So they get very frustrated with that. And of course, remember, as I always like to remind, it is an open public process. Corey, in all the probate hearings that you've gone to, do you see many people just lurking in the audience?
So prior to COVID, we would have to go down to the court and sit in the court. And everybody's allowed in. And especially on days where they were selling real property, you didn't know who was in there and what they were doing exactly. Ever since COVID, now they do what's called Zoom calls. So people can still go in the courtroom, but everything happens over the phone. And, to be honest, I haven't been down there since COVID. So I don't know if there's still people in the courtroom. I'm guessing there might be one or two, old timers in there, but the vast majority is happening on the phone. But people can call in and listen. The number is public. You can call in, even if you don't have anything to do with any of the cases, and listen to the whole thing, just like you can with criminal cases and any other public hearing.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next point. Corey, the day after someone passes away, let's talk about first question. Who secures the home?
So it depends. Anybody can secure the home. Anybody that has an interest, if you will, or some kind of affiliation with the estate. But if the will named a person to handle the estate, that's going to be an executor. If the court has to name a person because a will didn't, that's going to be an administrator. Those titles don't become effective until the court quasi gives them to you and approves you to do those things. But in each case, that person usually will be the one to go in. Typically, John, what happens is it's going to be a spouse, potentially if the deed was not handled correctly, or typically a son or a daughter. They've been with the parent. I mean, this is just the normal way things happen.
Right.
They know when the parent passes away. They know now that they're going to step into these shoes at some point in the future per the court order. So they're going to secure the property. They're going to pay all the bills. They're going to keep the lights on. Because remember, all the bank accounts, everything is shut down.
Frozen. Mm-hmm.
Unless you have a transfer on death, a TOD with the bank,
or
which some people do.
The account. Yeah, or your name's on the account with the parent. Yep.
But most of the time, that person is going to step in and secure things.
Who has the legal authority?
Well, the executor or the administrator will at some point, but that's not until the court deems them to have that authority or gives them the letters. So in the meantime, it's a good question. I don't, as far in my eyes, who has the authority to do things with the property, like buy, sell, make decisions? Nobody does. I know that sounds weird.
Till the judge
but nobody
issues that. Yep.
But who has authority to secure the property, make mortgage payments? Really, anybody? I mean,
but again, let's emphasize they're paying out of their own pocket, unless
correct.
TOD,
absolutely,
transfer on death on the account with dad that just died, or their names on the bank account.
Correct.
Yeah, John, and the one that I'm dealing with specifically, I mean, everything's having to come out of his pocket. Everything, yes. And he's got a cooperative sister, so I mean, she's kind of helping. They're kind of just limping along till they get the final judgment or whatever it is that they're getting. But yeah, it's putting a pretty good burden on him. You can't you can't take any money out on the house because you don't own the house. I mean, you're on your own.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And the other, thing to keep in mind too. So again, anybody can secure the home, but Corey, who has the legal authority to call you as the broker and sell the home? Let's go down that path very quickly. When a house, you're getting a call from someone, it's in probate, or getting ready to, dad just died yesterday. What do you typically tell these people? I can't do anything at this point.
If an attorney calls me, then I know 9 times out of 10 it's legitimate. I do get phone calls sometimes from heirs or people that are interested in saying, I have this house, it's in probate, I want to do a listing agreement, this and that. I have access to the court system. So the first thing I do is look up the probate and read all the pleadings and make sure this person has or is what they say they are and has that authority. Not a lot of times, but sometimes they make a mistake where they will eventually have that authority, but they don't quite have it yet.
Yep.
So typically I'll call them back and say, hey, usually there's an attorney involved. Say, hey, you need to call your attorney so he or she can explain this to you. Or if they've already given you my number, then we've got to wait a little bit longer because as of right now, you don't have the right to sign anything on that. But in my experience, here's how much longer it's going to take you, to get that authority, if you will.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Let's go to our next point. Can the home be sold immediately? Well, we just answered that question. No. So let's go through in more depth, Corey, the court authority, the personal representative or the executor, so on and so forth.
So the home cannot be sold immediately because a person that owns a home is deceased. The estate is being monitored by the court. The attorney that's handling that estate is going to do all kinds of stuff with the will, put in the letters, do all the things to get that executor or administrator named by the court. And they're going to get a court order, which is what I need to show that, Jamie Sue is now the administrator of the estate, which owns 123 ABC Street. That process, John, can take as little as a couple months. It can be strung out for 2 years. It depends on the estate. It depends on what other issues are happening. I will tell you that I have received calls before where people said, I want to put the house on the property. I explain it to them. A week later, the house is on the market. And I just sit back and go, but they don't have anything, like they don't have the right to do it, but there are a lot of people out there that don't understand these processes.
Wow. You mean other real estate professionals?
Correct. Yes, they will.
Quote professionals.
Yeah. And they are going to get stopped.
Can you imagine the title mess? Can you imagine? Hold on a second. As an outsider looking in, as you explained that, Corey, can you imagine Dwight's the buyer? I'm the ding dong agent. Get to the closing table and, well, I'm sure title would have picked it up probably right before the closing, but
title will pick it up prior to that, usually with the title report. But I will tell you, I don't want to segue somewhere else. There are some fly-by-night title companies now that may or may not pick it up. So everybody just needs to be careful. If somebody is deceased and you're handling a property, make sure you have court authority to do it because it creates a nightmare.
It sounds like a area, Corey, that in future could be, scammed, that type, it feels like that you got to be very careful, with that. Cause it just feels like that's, you see that?
I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure it's happening in courts. Because the thing with these two, and I'm guessing it's everywhere all over the country, these are public documents. So with public documents, some smart computer guy can create something to go in and read these documents and find these deeds and do these things. And so, it's an area ripe for, criminals to do things. But I would assume also that on the other side of that, the court system has seen this before, and now they've got procedures in place to make sure certain things happen. The title companies are getting hammered with AI fraud, all kinds of fraud. So their warning lights go off all the time. So it's very hard to get through a reputable title company fraudulently, especially with the probate.
Perfect. Okay, when we come back, we're going to ask Corey the $1 million question. Give us some quick war stories of what it's like to sit in probate court, over the years with his experience, and let us know how it really goes. Not just textbook, but real life answers. 780 KOH. Mr. Millard, your phone number, sir?
Yes, sir. 240-2022.
Mr. Edge.
673-6700.
Perfect. All right. Dwight wants to make sure, and I welcome this. He wants me to re-explain one more time that a will makes you go to probate. Just having a will or not having a will makes you go to probate. So just want to make sure everybody's clear on that, right, Dwight?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I was just thinking, as people listen, they think, well, I've got a will. A will does not prevent you from going to probate. The only thing that does is a living trust, that you've discussed. So
as I've said many times when I cover estate planning, our old dear friend Jamie Kalicki, remember he would say the following. He said, a will is nothing more than instructions for the probate judge.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's
probably true. Yes, yeah.
One of his many sayings. A will is only instructions for the probate judge.
I like that.
Okay, Corey, here we go. Let's get some stories going here, man. Let's talk about some more stories that you have gone through. I'll let you just kind of run with it. Some things that we can learn from.
What do you want to hear about? Well, there's been so many, John. One of the ones that I closed last month, which was the first time I had to deal with it, was they were a non-married couple, common community property or common property, 50-50, without the right of survivorship. Unfortunately, the girlfriend, if you will, in this story, passed away. That created an estate for that 50%. The girlfriend's, heirs didn't really care for the boyfriend, and so they kind of forced a sale. Now, by forcing a sale, I guess I kind of lied to you in the beginning of the show, because that was one where he didn't want to sell. It took about 2 years. The court finally interjected and said, you're going to sell this property. And so they closed the property, but that was just a 50% ownership of that half.
So let's educate the audience. What caused that? It's the titling that caused that situation.
That was the title. They did not have, they were 50-50 owners, tenants in common, but they did not have the right of survivorship. If they would have had the right of survivorship, the deceased girlfriend's interest would have automatically transferred over to the boyfriend.
Sure.
I think they didn't have it purposely, although he contended, differently to the probate judge, but the judge wouldn't buy it. So that's how we ended up.
In God's name, would anybody have their property listed tenants in common and not joint tenants' rights of survivorship? What is the? I've never come across a
breakup
for this exact reason, because these were, again, I'm not going to give you the minute details, but this was a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. Girlfriend passes away. They wanted to make sure, and they did it rightly so, that if something happened to her, there was an estate created to where her heirs, which unfortunately in this case were her parents, got her 50% of the estate. Otherwise, it would have transferred to boyfriend. Boyfriend could have done anything he wanted to with it.
Okay.
And so it was in the beginning, we kind of questioned it the same way you did, like, why would they do that? And then it kind of dawned on us, like, oh, they're actually pretty smart that they do it. But the boyfriend tried to contend that we meant to do tenants in common, we just never recorded it, but the judge wasn't buying
it. Yeah, I didn't buy that one.
So,
all right, interesting learning story there.
I've had one. I was just real quick, not to get into all the dirty stuff, but I had one a couple years ago, and this is where you've got to be very careful. There were 3 siblings. They chose the one that lived closest to mom to take care of it. Mom passed away. The other 2 lived out of state. The one that was closest ended up forging a reverse mortgage on the property, took a bunch of money, gambled it away, cleared out about $300,000 in bank accounts down at the local casino, ended up in jail from all this. And so the courts are there to protect all these things. So if there's more than one heir, especially if there's siblings, sometimes choosing the one that's closest to the person isn't the smartest one. I mean, only the family knows those things, but I deal with a lot of executors that live out of state, even though they have to have an in-state person at the same time. But typically I would say choose the one that you think is the most financially responsible, savvy, whatever you want to call it. Because the one closest to mom or dad sometimes is there for a reason, unfortunately.
Dwight, 10 seconds. Continue making the mortgage payment during probate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Give yourself a fighting chance. Yeah, keep everything current.
Beautiful. Great job, guys. We could do this a 3-hour show on this topic. We'll have to come back and revisit it. Excellent job as always. God bless everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on the John Sanchez Show.